Welcome to the Hidden Homestead. My name is David, and today we're going to do a brief overview on case design for the modern cartridges of today's newer rifles. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today as we go over the case design for modern cartridges used in today's newer rifles. Now, before I get into that, I do have to say that I'm not like a super professional. I'm not super knowledgeable on all this stuff. Disclaimer, I'm no Ron Spalmer. I think that's how he pronounces his name. I'm not that cool, really. I mean, he knows his stuff. Now, why am I doing this then? Well, if you know, may or may not know, I'm taking classes at SDI, and part of the course for those classes is to make a video explaining whatever we have to explain for that certain week. And this week, of course, is case design. So basically, I have made a video series on, or going to make a video series, I'm in the process of doing so now, of all the videos that I'm going to end up shooting throughout the whole degree and then put them on here. That way, if you're thinking, I'd like to do SDI, is it for me? Well, I don't know, watch this video and you might be able to find out. If it's not for you, if SDI is not for you, I still think that there's quite a bit of information that I'm going to be giving out in these videos. So if it's something you're interested in, keep coming back, because I'm basically going to learn you what I'm learning. That's not even correct grammar or English, I don't think. Before we get into it, I do want to say something about my analytics. Now, I took a look at my analytics, and 96% of my viewers are not subscribed. So you would be doing me, do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button right down there. Only takes a second, and it really helps the channel out tremendously. Also, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is me, The Hidden Homestead. At thehiddenhomesteadstore.com, we have anything that we make in the workshop, blacksmithing, carpentry stuff. We also have t-shirts and hats and beard oil if you are a bearded bastard. Like myself, I like to look and smell pretty sometimes, so I use my own beard oil. You can check it out, and we do have samples right now of all 4 of the fragrances of our beard oil. So if you go check that out, pick up a sample pack, and then use the discount code that you'll be given at purchase, and you'll receive $10 on your purchase of your favorite beard oil fragrance. That's not even correct grammar or English, I don't think. Anyway, go check that out. Thank you, The Hidden Homestead, for sponsoring today's video. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to say that modern cases are cases that are relatively new and have made an appearance within the last 20 years or so. With that in mind, and to simplify this video, we're going to discuss one modern cartridge in particular. Now, whether you like this cartridge or not is irrelevant, because let's face it, it's one of the most popular modern cartridges out there. Any guesses on what it is? I'm talking about the 6.5 Creedmoor. Let me know in the comments below if you knew that was the cartridge I was going to bring up. So using the 6.5 Creedmoor for my demonstration, the features are the mouth, the neck, the shoulder, body, and the web, which on the inside is where the casing gets thicker to withstand the pressures and tapers into the rest of the body. The head is right here, and the extractor groove is here. The primer pocket and the flash hole. The reason for the case design on many of the newer cases is to accommodate and complement the newer modern projectiles. Now, if you remember back in week 1, I talked about sectional density. If you haven't seen that video, you can check it out right here. But in a nutshell, sectional density is a way of expressing the weight of a bullet relative to its caliber. The heavier the bullet, the longer it is, because it must maintain that caliber or diameter. Higher sectional density numbers mean better ballistics as well as accuracy. And these modern cases were designed to help push the limits of those modern projectiles. The shorter, fatter, straighter bodied, and steeper shouldered cases play a huge part in the overall cartridge's internal ballistics and accuracy. Now, the first challenge that had to be addressed was fitting these longer, sleeker projectiles into the cases themselves while still being able to fit the entire cartridge into existing magazines. Now, in order for the cartridge to fit into the magazine, these high ballistic coefficient bullets needed to be sitted far back with a portion of the bullet in the powder chamber. Now, this causes significant issues with internal ballistics. If the base of the projectile extends past the neck and into the body of the case, the base of the bullet could be pushed sideways as the gases expand, causing it to enter the rifling at a tilt. Once it starts in the rifling at that tilt, it remains that way as it spirals through the bore. Needless to say, this is not good for accuracy. So to alleviate this, cases were built shorter and fatter so that they had the same volume as the longer, skinnier cases. This allows the projectile to be seated properly inside the case's neck, and the completed cartridge could still fit into existing magazines. In doing so, we also learned that short, fat cases are very efficient. If you take a long, skinny case and a short, fat case with the same volume, the short, fat case will deliver faster muzzle velocities with the same amount of powder. Another feature that is noticeably different on modern cases is the shoulder angle. If a case has a lot of taper and a shallow shoulder angle, you're more prone to getting slop in tolerances, which means a case doesn't fit perfectly inside the chamber. This, of course, will contribute to subpar internal ballistics and overall accuracy. The straighter you can align a cartridge in a barrel's chamber, the better. This is why there are steeper shoulder angles on modern cases. It helps the cartridge sit centered in the chamber and parallel to the bore, which means better accuracy. So to kind of push this point home as far as the design over the years, I do have a couple projectiles that I'm going to use just to show you what I mean. Now, these are the ones that I had, and they're pretty old to pretty new. So that's the reason I chose them, and you're really going to be able to tell the difference as we go through the years. So let's first start in 1884. The 3240 Winchester was introduced. Now, if you take a look at this cartridge, it has a rim there on the bottom. The body is tapered and it has no shoulder whatsoever. And this is kind of what I was talking about where I said that a cartridge with a tapered body and little to no shoulder, there's a lot of slop in the tolerance as it sits inside the chamber. Of course, something else with that is the modern CNC and machining. We've gotten a lot better at that, so even if we were still using this design, the tolerances would have gotten better, but this design just isn't as efficient as some of the later models. Now in 1889, the 303 British came into play, and you can see some of the similarities. It still has a rim around the base. The body is tapered, but not as dramatic as the 3240. Because it's not as tapered, we're starting to see a slight shoulder in its design. Now let's skip forward to 1903. The 8mm Mauser came in, and we lost the rim. Now we have an extractor groove. The body is not tapered. It might barely be tapered, but again, not as much as the 3240 and the 303. And the shoulder is starting to get more pronounced. So skip ahead to 1906, out comes the popular 30-06. Now the 30-06 is still being used by hundreds and hundreds of hunters because it has proven super effective. It is a very good round, and as you can see, the taper is pretty much gone. We still have that extractor groove. The shoulder is starting to get more pronounced than, say, the 8mm. Now, it is still shallow. It is still a shallow angle, but it is more pronounced. And at this point, I should say, as far as the angle, when I say shallow or steep, I am referring to it as it lays in the chamber. A shallow angle is going to be something like that, which is pretty close to that 30-06. A steeper angle is when the shoulder is pitched up like this. So just to clarify that as we go along. Now in 1952, the tried and true and favorite 308 came into play. And you can see there's a lot of similarities between the 308 and the 30-06. It is kind of just a shorter action opposed to the 30-06, and that's really what we were going for. We wanted to do away with the big heavy 30-06, and we wanted to start going into those shorter actions. Now again, we've pretty much done away with all rimmed cartridges or casings by this point. Everything has gone to the extractor groove. The shoulders are getting more pronounced. It's a straighter body, and the angles on the shoulders are starting to get a little steeper. Now these are pretty close, but the 308 is a little steeper. Now fast forward to 2008, and in comes the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now if you put the 6.5 Creedmoor next to the 308, you'll notice quite a few similarities. I'll talk about those in just a minute. But the biggest differences you're going to notice is obviously the casing itself is shorter, and the shoulder is steeper, and it sets down a little bit further than what the 308 does. It still has the no rim. It has the extractor groove. It is a straight bodied, and this is where we start seeing those really steep shoulders that help inside the chamber, the internal ballistics, while the cartridge is sitting inside the chamber. Now what's interesting about the 6.5 Creedmoor is the parent company of the 6.5 Creedmoor was actually the 30 Thompson Center, which came in, I believe, 2007. Now I don't have one of those, but that is the parent case for the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now the parent case for the 30 Thompson Center was actually the 308. So the 308 technically is the parent cartridge to the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now the reason the 30 Thompson came, TC, the 30 Thompson Center came in was because the Army wanted something that had the capabilities of the 30-06, but they wanted the shorter action of the 308. Now it came into 2007. It didn't do great, but Hornady was able to use the casing of the 30 Thompson Center, neck it down, and made it just a little bit shorter to come up with the 6.5 Creedmoor. Using these cartridges, there's no doubting how far we've come in the past few decades for modern case design. That being said, I believe the weakness at this point would be cost and weight. The case itself is the most expensive and heaviest component of the completed cartridge. Metallics in general are expensive and costly to machine and shape. They're also heavier than any other possible materials such as composites. Now there is testing being conducted right now by the U.S. Army for plastic casings. And while it is interesting in theory, the limited data out so far isn't extremely promising. The composites that we have available are more brittle and thus weaker than any metallic material. It's also not the best material for heat sinking and pulling the excess heat out of the chamber. If this technology is achieved though, I believe it would lower the cost and weight per round, but potentially at some sort of compromise. All right guys, hopefully you enjoyed that video. Like I said, it was just a brief overview and my assignment for SDI, Sonoran Desert Institute. If you liked the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button, and then leave me a comment below and tell me why I'm so dumb or why I messed something up and I'm wrong. Also, it's free. It takes less than a second. It helps the channel out dramatically. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there. That would be awesome if you did that. We're on Facebook and Instagram and Patreon. You could go check that out. That helps the channel out tremendously. All those things do. If that's your thing, you could go check that out. And until next time, peace out. I love you guys.